This week on ANN, in Brazil, Sabbath-keeping public employees win protections at the nation's highest court.
The Adventist Church in ADRA assists Colombian islands destroyed by Hurricane Iota.
And in Mexico, thousands join the church after multiple digital evangelism efforts.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, Sabbath keepers in Brazil, a group that includes Jews and Seventh-day Adventists, now have additional protections when applying for and working in public sector jobs, thanks to the nation's Supreme Federal Tribunal, Brazil's highest judicial body.
With voting margins of 8-3 and 7-4 on November 25, the 11 justices decided two cases involving appeals from two Seventh-day Adventist church members, Margarete, Silva, Mateus, Furquim, a probationary public school teacher in Sao Paulo, disciplined for Sabbath-day absences, and Geismario Silva dos Santos, who requested to take a civil service placement exam on a day other than Sabbath.
Both Adventists won backing from the court for their position. What's more, the Supreme Federal Tribunal said its decisions will now become the governing decisions for future cases in lower courts throughout the nation.
There are 1.5 million Seventh-day Adventists in Brazil. According to the World Jewish Committee, there are 120,000 Jews in Brazil, making it South America's second largest Jewish population, just behind Argentina.
Pastor Helio Carnasale, Director of Public Affairs and Religious Liberty for the Seventh-day Adventist Church's South American Division, said the High Court victories are more than an Adventist cause, but a decision favorable to all people who have a religious day of worship, strengthening the conviction that religious freedom is an individual right to be enjoyed by all without distinction.
The two cases dealt with issues related to keeping the Sabbath as a holy day. Furquim, who lives in Sao Paulo, suffered discipline at a municipal public school because of 90 absences registered on Friday nights.
In the state of Pará, Dos Santos spent years preparing for his civil service exams, but was unable to take all the tests due to their scheduling. He was permitted to take one of the exams on a Sunday after filing his lawsuit, but not all of them.
The Dos Santos ruling, according to the majority, guarantees that it is possible to carry out civil service examinations on dates and times different from those provided for in the notice by a candidate who invokes excuse of conscience and religious belief, so long as the alternative is reasonable and preserves equal access to job opportunities for all candidates.
For Furquim, the majority ruled it is possible for the public administration, even at a probationary stage of employment, to establish alternative criteria for the regular exercise of the functional duties inherent to public positions in the face of civil servants who invoke an excuse of conscience for reasons religious belief and job functions are equal on the alternate day. In other words, if an employee needs an alternative day of employment so they can observe the Sabbath, public administrators can and should accommodate such a request.
The cases were first heard on November 19, and two of the court's justices rendered preliminary opinions on the arguments. On the 25th, the full court heard the case and voted its decisions.
Justice Alexandre de Moraes said it is possible for administrators to make alternative provisions for Sabbath keepers, even those in a probationary period of employment.
Among those presenting arguments before the Supreme Federal Tribunal was attorney Luigi Braga, director of the legal office of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in South America.
Braga underscored the significance of Sabbath keeping for the 1.5 million members of the denomination in Brazil and considered the trial historic. In Braga's view, keeping the Sabbath is a social fact related to a belief with thousands of years of history and not just an issue based only on an individual's decision.
During his oral argument before the tribunal justices, Braga read the divine determination of obedience to the Sabbath in Exodus chapter 20, verses 8-11. He argued that no one should be deprived of their rights due to religious beliefs.
For more information and to read the whole story, visit Adventist.news.
Hurricane Iota barreled through the Colombian islands of San Andres and Providencia with 160-mile-per-hour winds on November 16, downing power lines and trees and destroying streets and buildings. According to Colombian officials, the Category 5 storm destroyed 98% of the homes in Providencia Island, leaving people in need of shelter and basic necessities. One person was reported dead from the storm. Church officials reported no deaths among the membership. However, dozens of Adventist families lost everything. President of the Adventist Church in the Colombian Islands, Jonathan Gallego, said Iota hit San Andres on a lesser scale, but the brunt of the storm totally devastated Providencia. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, in Colombia, and its Garza rescue team arrived as quickly as possible to clear roads, remove debris, and begin assisting displaced people. So far, 50 Adventist families have been affected and 3 churches completely destroyed in Providencia. In San Andres, 30 families have damaged homes, and 2 out of the 8 damaged Adventist churches were completely destroyed. Even though there was no communication and it was difficult reaching Providencia, the ADRA team distributed an initial 300 hygiene kits and 40 portable gas stoves. In addition to humanitarian aid, the rescue team shared 40 Bibles and hymnals with members at the Providencia community. The church in ADRA, Colombia will continue assisting affected families in the days and weeks to come. Church leaders said, next week, 1,300 hygiene kits and 500 portable gas stoves are scheduled to be distributed in Providencia.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church in the interoceanic Mexican region baptized more than 800 people earlier this month, the culmination of its 4th digital evangelism campaign. The campaign saw thousands of active church members connecting with their friends and neighbors to watch the series and enroll in Bible studies. Coined as Project Rescate 316 or Rescue 316, the message of the campaign referred to John 3:16. Evangelism efforts took place from October 31 to November 6. Geared toward a younger viewership, the campaign was held on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and was the latest in a series of online evangelism campaigns, which began soon after the coronavirus pandemic hit Mexico. More than 5,800 people have been baptized as a result of the 4 online evangelism campaigns held in the region so far. The numbers are remarkable considering how church leaders were forced to switch gears when churches had to close their doors. Assistant to the president for the Adventist Church in the interoceanic Mexico region, Felix Vidal, said at the beginning of the lockdown, we looked at that pandemic situation as a challenge or a barrier for our evangelism work. We thought once the pandemic is over, we will hold evangelism campaigns, but soon we realized that we needed to think about digital evangelism strategies as a way of reaching people with the gospel. It was a time to use social media platforms as a means to reach people who could not be reached by any other way, he said. Rescate 316 is part of the evangelism effort to gather contact information from non-Adventist friends who are interested in studying the Bible. Prior to the Rescate 316 campaign, thousands of young people were recruited and trained to share Bible study lessons during the week. More than 7,800 requests for Bible studies came in. The first online campaign, held in May, provided hope in the midst of crisis. The second campaign was in July and focused on the books of Daniel and Revelation. The third in early August was focused on health and well-being. It's been a new way of reaching more people, a proven strategy in evangelism for the church in the interoceanic Mexican region, said Vidal. So far this year, more than 12,500 people have been baptized into the church, some 5,500 alone during the pandemic period of April to early November.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, and the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Serbia found multiple ways to serve the most vulnerable members of society.
Adventist young adults ages 18 to 26, with financial and logistical support from their local churches in ADRA, shopped for food and other supplies and then delivered much-needed parcels to church members who are elderly or disabled.
President of the Southeast European Conference, Dragan Grujic, joined these young Adventists as they delivered food to people who could not leave their homes during the COVID-19 lockdown.
But ADRA's work went far beyond assisting church members. ADRA intensified its efforts to boost the physical and emotional well-being of key groups it was already serving.
Country Director of ADRA Serbia, Igor Mitrovic, said, "Our 3 target groups became additionally vulnerable in this period: the homeless, children from the Roma community, and women and girls from the refugee and migrant communities. ADRA adapted its ongoing programs to respond to the new needs in these communities, or to put it more accurately, to the old needs made even more urgent.
Homelessness is a significant problem in Serbia. There are 5,000 to 10,000 people without homes in the capital of Belgrade, according to local authorities.
This inadequacy became painfully visible during the first weeks of the COVID-19 lockdown in March. The entire city of Belgrade had only one homeless shelter with a capacity of 114 people.
ADRA's response was immediate. Volunteers from local Seventh-day Adventist churches packed and distributed parcels of food and other essential items to 1,000 homeless individuals. In addition, ADRA continued its ongoing services to the homeless, which became even more crucial during the pandemic.
ADRA operates a specially designed and adapted bus called Drumodome, or Road Home. It contains 2 showers, a toilet, and a laundry room. Homeless individuals can enjoy a hot shower and drop off their dirty laundry to be washed at the laundry facility in ADRA's office building. ADRA provides 20 showers and 10 laundry services daily.
The Roma minority is the single most vulnerable national group in Europe. According to the Serbian government's strategy for social inclusion of Roma, they are at least 250,000 Roma in Serbia, and the majority of them live in poverty.
One of the key needs is helping Roma children complete their education. Surveys conducted by UNICEF in conjunction with the Serbian government show that fewer than 2/3 of children from Roma settlements complete primary school. With the advent of COVID-19, the likelihood of Roma children missing out on education drastically increased.
ADRA was already supporting the education of about 100 Roma children in Serbia. Since March, these learning programs have been adapted to the circumstance of COVID-19. COVID-19 also further complicated the life of refugees who are migrating through Europe in search of a home.
Confined to the refugee migrant centers during Serbia's lockdown, refugee women and girls in particular face additional risk of deteriorating living standards and exposure to violence, including sexual exploitation and abuse.
Beginning in March, the ADRA Women's Center in Belgrade adapted its gender-based violence prevention and empowerment program to continue offering support during the pandemic. The Women's Center provided remote psychological first aid through online groups and individual counseling for the 100+ women living in the Krnjača Asylum Center near Belgrade.
In the online groups, refugee women received information about COVID-19 protective measures, mental health, gender-based violence, activities for themselves and their children, and more.
In total, more than 70% of women in the Krnjača Asylum Center benefited from ADRA services during the pandemic.
In the midst of these difficult times, ADRA continued to distribute dignity kits containing sanitary towels, soap, and underwear to refugees and migrants in 3 asylum centers in Serbia.
Coming up, Adventists in Brazil help their community through Impact Hope.
We'll be right back after the break.
Why is there evil in the world? Are Christians hypocrites? Is the Bible a fairy tale? Does Jesus love everyone? Church doesn't feel relevant to my life. Is God even real? You have questions? Let's talk about it. I Believe Bible.
Welcome back.
Recently, Adventists in Brazil reached out and ministered to people in their communities by sharing discipleship books and food.
The South American Division and Revista has more.
E chegou a hora de conhecermos melhor de que maneira o povo do centro-oeste brasileiro recebeu o livro A Maior Esperança.
Falamos direto do coração do Brasil. Aqui na região centro-oeste, o Impacto Esperança foi animado. Em Goiás, cerca de 320 mil livros foram distribuídos. Na capital goiânia, mesmo com o tempo fechado, ações criativas foram realizadas para preservar a segurança de todos.
O jeito de compartilhar a literatura foi de forma simples, objetiva e inusitada, como nesta árvore de livros.
A gente fala para as pessoas que nós não estamos apresentando uma religião. Primeiro, nós estamos querendo levar para eles um pouquinho de esperança nesse momento de pandemia.
Ideias diferentes como drive-thru, delivery da esperança e carteiros da esperança foram utilizadas para levar uma palavra de alívio para as pessoas. Uma geração missionária que se preocupa com o próximo.
Então o jovem está sendo chamado com maior importância para desempenhar esse papel, essa missão, né? E a missão já corre nas veias do jovem por natureza. Então para nós é muito importante esse momento de levar esperança para os lares como uma missão pessoal e individual.
Agora nós vamos falar com a repórter Damares, que está no internato adventista da região centro-oeste do Brasil. Damares, é com você.
Obrigada, Michael. E eu estou aqui no IABC, o Instituto Adventista Brasil Central. E por aqui os alunos se dedicaram especificamente para essa entrega. E devido à pandemia do novo coronavírus, essa entrega precisou ser feita de maneira estritamente online, protegendo assim quem entrega e quem recebe esse presente. A proposta foi apresentada para os alunos durante a semana nos cultos que o colégio oferece. Cada um decidiu entregar de uma maneira diferente. Alguns decidiram usar as redes sociais para fazer essa entrega de livros. Cada um deles falando sobre a esperança do cristão e como isso pode impactar a vida de cada um dos envolvidos. Nós vamos agora para a Várzea Grande, em Mato Grosso, com a repórter Gabriela.
Oi, Damares. Oi para você que está acompanhando esse giro de notícias. Aqui no estado de Mato Grosso, mais de 500 mil livros e 66 mil revistas infantis já foram entregues durante o Impacto Esperança. Nós estamos aqui no Jardim Itororó e Jardim União, em Várzea Grande, acompanhando um grupo de voluntários que prepararam kits da esperança. E eles estão presenteando as pessoas nos pontos de ônibus, semáforos, postos de gasolina, enquanto o outro grupo preparou cestas básicas e estão entregando com o livro para pessoas carentes, alimentando o físico e o espiritual.
O Impacto Esperança em Mato Grosso foi marcado por ações diversificadas. Além do livro, foram entregues cestas de alimentos, roupas em sistema de varal solidário, também o carinho para as pessoas nesse momento que elas mais precisam, a esperança.
Eu passo a palavra agora para a repórter Rebeca Silvestrin, em Campo Grande.
Obrigada, Gabriela. E aqui no Mato Grosso do Sul, mais de 220 mil livros foram distribuídos. E a gente veio cobrir uma ação muito interessante. Além da entrega dos livros do Impacto Esperança, mais de 300 marmitas estão sendo distribuídas no projeto Criança Feliz, aqui no Parque do Lajeado, em Campo Grande.
Nós temos trazido para essas crianças não só o pão, o alimento, mas nós temos trazido também o conhecimento de Jesus, que é o pão da vida.
Para a dona de casa, Andréia Perry, mãe de crianças que participam do projeto, o presente recebido no último sábado trouxe boas notícias e esperança de dias melhores.
A esperança é uma coisa que tem poucas pessoas que acham que vai chegar para elas, né? Porque tem pessoas que já desistiu, já desanimou. Você pega um livro e vai ler, você vê que tem um futuro.
O dia 31 de outubro foi marcado por ações diferentes em todo o estado. Na capital, o coração da cidade foi inundado por mensagens de conforto. Às vezes, o livro chegava assim, em mãos. Em outras, quem passava por ali decidia pegar um exemplar do varal e levar para casa. Carreatas, ações sociais, tudo com um único objetivo: apresentar a maior esperança aos corações. A Igreja Adventista no centro-oeste do país é composta pelos estados de Goiás, Mato Grosso, Mato Grosso do Sul, Tocantins e pelo Distrito Federal. Ao todo, esses 5 estados juntos distribuíram cerca de 1,5 milhão de exemplares do livro A Maior Esperança.
Coming up, David Trim is here with This Week in Adventist History.
But up next, Adventist Mission shares a song by Padma Madidi.
Any idea what time it is?
We really, really need our sleep. Are you from? No, we're not from the future, but we know you only pay attention to yourselves, so here we are.
But how? We have no time for that. We have less than 30 seconds.
Fact number 1. Adults need 7 hours of sound, restful sleep to keep their immune systems healthy and to fight viruses. And today, right now, is the single most important thing you can do to keep yourself healthy. What are you doing?
We're just Googling if spicy foods cause hallucinations.
Fact 2, staring at your phone or your computer right before bed prevents sound sleep. And you'll be tired the next day. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Can we just go to bed, please?
Welcome back.
This week in our mission report, Adventist Mission shares an original Southern Asian style song by Padma Madidi.
Adventist Mission has more.
సహనము చూపే సోదరులెవరో మహిమను పొందే మానవులే సహనము చూపే సోదరులెవరో మహిమను పొందే మానవులే ఇహమున విజయుడై పరమున చేరిన మహిమశీలి ప్రభు ప్రేమ పాత్రులే సహనము చూపే సోదరులెవరో మహిమను
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting adventistmission.org, then click on videos at the top.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history.
This week, classes start for the first time at Bogenhofen Seminary.
Welcome to This Week in Seventh-day Adventist history. November 30 in 1949 was the first day of classes at Seminar Schloss Bogenhofen in Austria. Its English name today is Bogenhofen Seminary, though it has also been known as Austrian-Swiss Senior College. Those first classes, 71 years ago, were attended by 22 students. Currently, Bogenhofen Seminary has 55 students, and there is also an Adventist secondary school on the campus. Both the college and school are operated by the Austrian Union of Churches, but Bogenhofen also serves as the designated college for theology students from the German-speaking conference of the Swiss Union Conference. The church in Austria, Switzerland, and Germany, for that matter, is only experiencing very slow growth as those countries are highly secular. Pray for the faculty at Bogenhofen and for the pastors graduating from there. On December 4, 1892, the South African Conference was organized with Asa T. Robinson as president, Ira J. Hankins as secretary, and Mrs. Nellie Drouillard as treasurer. At the time the South African Conference came into existence, the country of South Africa did not yet exist, being split between two independent Afrikaner republics and several British colonies and protectorates. In all, that conference was responsible for all Seventh-day Adventist work in what would become the countries not only of South Africa, but also of Botswana, Lesotho, Malawi, Swaziland, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. That was a huge territory. But before the end of the decade, the territory of most of those modern nations had been entered by Seventh-day Adventist missionaries. In 1902, when the South African Conference membership was 715 in 15 churches, it was reorganized into the South African Union Conference. That was This Week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, then write up a summary of the event's important details, and feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 13, verses 1 and 2.
The passage says, "If I speak in human or angelic tongues, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I'm nothing."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit Adventist.news for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.